The spiritual awakening of a chosen one is similar to a new recruit reporting to boot camp for the first time. They will be put through intensive training as well as discipline in order to shape them into a soldier, in order to prepare them for the battlefield. As a chosen one, when you experience your spiritual awakening, you are similar to that new recruit who is now ready to be transformed into a powerful spiritual warrior. In yesterday's video, we talked about signs you are being called into isolation. And we concluded that isolation, though not pleasant, is a vital part of the spiritual awakening journey. In today's video, we're discussing 5 things that happens while you are in isolation. But before we get into the video, I'd like to take a moment to say hello and welcome to everyone. If you're new here, I go by the name Inspire Seeker, and on this channel we discuss spirituality, personal development, and narcissism. So if any of that appeals to you, or if you feel called to, then by all means join us, and I promise you will not regret that decision. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into 5 things that happens while you're in isolation. Essentially, the reason why God or the universe, whichever one you prefer, calls you into isolation. One thing that happens when we're going through isolation is that we tend to fight it, right? We tend to fight it because it comes on suddenly, right? It comes on unexpectedly. Imagine going on about your life, going on about your everyday activities, and suddenly you're being made uncomfortable. You're being forced to go inward, essentially, right? You're being uncomfortable around people. You're being uncomfortable doing your normal activities, and so you are essentially being forced to withdraw inward. All right. When this happens, guys, it takes us by surprise, and we go into shock. All right, and we tend to react to it instead of responding to it because we're not aware of what's happening. First, we're going through a spiritual awakening, so we are already in a position where we're not sure if we're going or coming. We feel a bit lost. Some people think we're going crazy, and so we don't know what's happening, and then suddenly we're being pulled to go inward. We're being pulled in to isolate. Okay, so when this happens, guys, we react to it, right, instead of responding to it, because we don't know what's happening to us. So we react to it by fighting this isolation. What this does now is that it prolongs the process. Okay, it makes it even more painful on ourselves because it prolongs the process of that period of isolation. Okay, and so the more you fight it, the longer your isolation season will be. All right, my advice, guys, is that when you feel the signs we discussed in yesterday's video, when you start recognizing these signs, is to surrender to the process. Okay, surrender to the process and let nature run its course. Okay, you go into isolation, you go through that process, and you will come back refined, you will come back ready, you will come back sharpened, you will come back trained and ready to take on the world. Okay, so now that we got out of the way, that was a mouthful. Let's go into the 5 reasons why you're being called into isolation. The first reason is to get to know yourself better. Okay, to get to know yourself. The average person today, guys, if you were to ask them who they are, they will possibly start with what they do for a living. Okay? They will start with what they do for a living, or they will start with the qualifications they hold. Okay? This is because a lot of us don't know who we truly are. Okay? We know who we are based on whatever identity the matrix has given us. Okay? Whatever identity we relate to in the matrix, that's who we think we are. Okay? But once we go through the awakening process and we go into isolation, we learn a lot more about who we are. Okay? One of the things you find out is that you're an empath. All of us chosen ones are empath to a certain degree. All right? And you will come to this realization at some point of your awakening, possibly during isolation. Okay? You will also discover your personality type. You are an INFJ, ENFJ, INFP, ENFP, all of those. Okay? But essentially, you will get to know yourself better. You will come face to face with who you truly are, and you will begin to understand why your life has been the way it has been. All of these will become clear to you during the isolation season. You will have a lot of time to yourself. You will have a lot of time to get to know yourself. You will have a lot of time to learn yourself, essentially, right? And you then gain this deep insight to who you truly are and what you're here to do. You get to know all the gifts that you have, all the capabilities, all the abilities that you have. Rather, you essentially go from your matrix identity to realize that you are a powerful spiritual being. Okay, you realize you have all of these spiritual abilities, all of these spiritual gifts, all of these things that you had no idea you had before. All of this will be revealed to you during your isolation period. So that's the first thing that happens while you're in isolation. You get to know yourself better. The second thing that happens is that you cultivate a stronger connection to God. Okay? You cultivate a stronger connection to God. When you're going through isolation, you are essentially being pulled inward, right? You are essentially being called to go inward, right? And so one thing that will happen is all the distractions that normally would be there to take you off your path, okay? Friends, family, activities, all of these distractions that normally would take up your time will essentially be taken away from you, right? And now you will be left by yourself to build a deeper connection, not only with yourself, but also with God, okay? You will learn how to commune with God. You will learn how to open up to God. God wants you to get to know him better, okay? Let me put it that way. God wants you to get to know him better. And so while you're in isolation, God will begin to reveal himself to you in many different ways, okay? You may have dreams. You may have your gifts go online. You may begin to realize how powerful you are and that you are able to communicate beyond this physical reality. When you are faced with obstacles and you now only have yourself, you realize that you have yourself and God to communicate with. Okay, you start to trust God more. You start to trust yourself more. So now, rather than calling someone else to tell them about your problems or your issues, when you encounter obstacles, you will reach out to God instead. Okay, because now you're in isolation. You probably haven't talked to people in a while, and you're not gonna just whip out your phone and call people and start telling them about your problems. Okay, You would rather go to God with whatever you thinking, okay? Whatever may be bothering you. You may need guidance. You may need answers to certain questions. You can commune with God to make that happen, okay? And so that's the second thing that's happening while you're in isolation, okay? God wants you to establish a stronger bond with him. God wants you to begin to call on him more, okay? God wants you to get to know him better, okay? And so he'll find ways to reveal himself to you as well while you're in isolation. At number 3 is to transform yourself, okay? When I say transform yourself, I mean to heal your trauma, all right? As a chosen one, as an empath going through the awakening process, chances are you've endured a very traumatic life, okay? You've endured a very traumatic life while you are here in this matrix. And that's one thing that happens during isolation, that your traumas come to the forefront to be addressed, okay? So now you are isolated. You don't have a lot of people around you. You don't have a lot of distractions around you. So you come face to face with your trauma, and you are given the opportunity to face them head on and address them. Healing requires a lot from you. And in order to heal, you need time, you need a lot of energy, you need a lot of attention for yourself, all right? So rather than being distracted by all these external factors, people, places, activities, all of those things, guys, you are being called into isolation so you can focus, all right? So you can focus on yourself and actually put all of that attention and all of that love into yourself and heal, face and heal your traumas and become this healed version of yourself. Imagine the soldier analogy that I used earlier. You are essentially being fine-tuned. You are being trained to come out as that warrior, okay? To be ready to face the world, okay? So you are facing your traumas. You are healing your traumas while you're in isolation. You coming face to face with your traumas so you can address them and heal and transform yourself and come out ready to face the world again. Number 4 is to learn and grow, okay? We call this you're being capacitated, all right? Capacitation is from the word capacity, right? Which is essentially strength, okay? So you are going to become aware of your strengths, of all the gifts and abilities and the talents that you have, okay? Some of these gifts and talents you didn't know you had them, all right? But while you're in isolation, as you get to know yourself better, as you explore yourself better, you get to know all of these abilities that you have. But not just that, you get to train, essentially, right? You get to learn and grow, okay? Now you are aware that you have these gifts. You are aware that you have these abilities. You are aware that you have these talents. What is there to do with them, okay? Now you get to learn how to use them, how to hone them, and how to use them to the best of your abilities, okay? So that's another thing that's happening in isolation. You get to learn a lot about yourself, including your gifts, your abilities, your potentials, okay? You get to learn a lot about God, okay? Ways to commune with God, how to build a stronger bond with God and stay in communication with God. And also you get to learn a lot about the world that you live in, okay? You get to learn that this is a spiritual world than a physical world. You get to learn how to operate within this spiritual world, okay, that we live in. You get to learn how to use your gifts. You get to learn the many gifts and talents and abilities that you have and how to use them, okay? So that's number 4. What happens in that isolation, guys? You're being capacitated. Your capacities are being sharpened. Your abilities, your gifts, your talents are being sharpened. They are being made known to you, and then you are being trained in them, essentially, on how to use them. The 5th thing that happens is you cultivate self-love. Okay, you cultivate self-love. Chances are, prior to your awakening, you've been focused outward. Okay, you've been giving as an empath, as a chosen being the natural giver, the natural healer that you are. You've been giving. Okay, so you've been outward focused. But here now, you turn inward focused. Okay, you're by yourself now. So now you get to pour all of this love into yourself. You learn so much about yourself that you know what you like and what you don't like. Okay, and without nobody there to give you the love, guys, the best love you could give yourself is the one from you. Okay, so you get to practice self-love. You get to love yourself more. Okay, rather than giving constantly, now you get to pour some of that love into yourself. Actually learn how to love yourself. Okay, you learn how to love yourself. You indulge in self-love practices. Okay, there's a lot of things that we take for granted. All right, and self-love is one of them. A lot of us go around, we so busy, caught up in the day-to-day activities and being with friends and being with others so much that we don't take the time for ourselves. Okay, we don't take the time to look out for us. Okay, we put ourselves last, essentially. Okay, so one thing that isolation does for you is it helps you cultivate self-love. All right, now you cut back from that giving, and now you can turn inward and pour some of that love into yourself. Okay, and as well as you going through the healing process, guys, you need all the love you can get. Okay, so isolation helps you cultivate self-love for yourself. All right, and it helps you with the healing process. It helps you overall along your journey. Okay, so that's number 5. And the 6th thing is you learn to trust and depend on yourself. Okay, you learn to trust and depend on yourself. Now, a lot of us are accustomed to always reaching out to others with our problems. Okay, every time we have some form of difficulty, we getting on the phone and we contacting someone, as if we don't believe in ourselves, we don't trust ourselves. Okay, so what isolation does to you is it's essentially put you in a position where you learn to depend on yourself. All right, also, as you learn all of these things about yourself and you learn all of these abilities that you have and all of these capabilities that you have, you learn to trust yourself more. Okay, with nobody there to influence your decisions, with nobody there to influence your actions, you learn, you cultivate self-trust. Okay, and you grow dependent on yourself. Okay, so you come to the realization that a lot of the things that you thought you needed someone to do for you or you needed someone's help with, you actually did not need nobody to help you. Okay, these are things that you could have done on your own. All right, and so all of this come as you're in isolation. All right, you learn all of these about yourself while you're in isolation. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to depend on yourself more because now you are aware of the abilities that you have, the capabilities that you have. And so you become reliant on yourself. So these are the 6 things that happens in isolation. Okay, why God is isolating you as a chosen one. Okay, so remember, guys, a chosen one, your spiritual awakening is essentially like a soldier reporting to duty, reporting to boot camp. Okay, now you have to go through the training. You have to go through all of that strengthening in order to become this warrior that's ready to face the battlefield. All right. Similar to you, in order for you to come face to face with your purpose, you need to be isolated. Okay. In order for you to come face to face with your purpose, you need to be trained. You need to be capacitated. You need to be healed. You need to be well and ready to go. Okay. And so these are the things that are happening in isolation. These are the reasons why God is isolating you, so he can prepare you and get you ready for the battlefield, get you ready for your mission, get you ready for your life purpose, essentially. All right. So I hope I made it clear enough, guys. Take a moment to share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. Share your experiences in the comment section, and also share these messages with your loved ones so we can continue to learn together. Each one teach one. Also, if you enjoyed the message, then stick around, because there should be another video or playlist popping up somewhere around my head here. Stick around and get more information on spiritual awakening. Other than that, I'll leave this here, guys. Until next time, peace, love, and more life.